Okay, guys, welcome back to our second episode of I Am Not My Story. I'm here with my friend who I haven't spoken to, which I just found out in our debrief. We haven't spoken in 5 years, so it's been long, things have changed. So she's here to talk about her, life experiences and jumped on board and excited to talk to someone who I haven't seen in a long time. And we met on a streaming platform actually, on you now. I don't know if any listeners know what that site was or all about. Basically, it was kind of like Twitch. Eventually it kind of, I believe it went down the shithole, to be honest. To be real, honestly, good, props to the people that are actually still on that app. But I think Twitch or Kick is the way to go, especially if you want to stream. But yeah, here's Kay. How you doing? It's been a
I'm doing
while.
well. It has been a while. It's been crazy.
I just can't
Like,
believe that it's been 5 years. Like, that's crazy to me.
I know it literally, I think about it from time to time, like being on that platform and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, wow, it's been so long. Like I've been married for almost a year now. So I'm like,
Damn, really?
wow, it's like been a minute since I've been on that platform and it's been a minute since I did all these other things. I'm like, it's so crazy. Yeah. There's just like points of the year where I think about things like last year, like in June, I finally got my diploma in nursing
Oh, nice.
after like 3 years.
Congratulations.
So like there's just points of the year where I'm like, oh wow, like that happened and that happened. Like I started that in
Hmm.
April of 2019. So like long time coming, but it's just certain times of the year, like certain months, there's things that I'll remember and I'll be like, and then I'll think of the year and I'm like, no, that wasn't like 6 years ago. No, that wasn't like 3 years ago. Like how long? Crazy.
I know it's just so crazy how like time just flies by, and then you just like something will remind you of like that one moment. You're like, oh, I wonder how this person's going. Oh, I wonder what they're doing with their life these days. Like, are they still on this platform or
I don't
what's new? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know how many times I think of a person and then I go onto my Facebook and see if like I could Facebook stalk them. I'll be like, oh, or see if I'm still friends with them on Facebook, and then they realize that like we don't actually have anything in common and we're just sort of like went to the same school. I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people did that, but like a lot of people in my school, we like added everyone because we were in the school. Like
yeah.
it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm really good friends with half of the people on my Facebook I went to school with, and I may have had a class with at some
Hmm.
point. It's not like I know them really well and stuff like that. So I see people's like constant life updates of people that I'm like, I just spent like a year of my life with you and I didn't even talk to you. Like, what the? But yeah, I'll
Right.
still have a look. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that person, what are they up to?
Yeah, it's funny because like a lot of like the people that I went to high school with are like getting married, having kids, and just like settling down. And then then there's me who's just still living life. And I think that yeah, you can start a family and do the normal way of growing up and getting married and whatnot. But I think there's no wrong age to start a family or get married. Like if you're, yeah, you can be in relationships, yeah, you can be dating other people and, seeing if that turns into something. But, I think a lot of people will generalize, the whole, yeah, we've just finished school, focus on my career for a little bit, then find someone to, date, and then it turns into a really serious relationship. And then one, a year or two later, a baby, or even just being engaged and then married, and then, family and career together as one. And like, it's just so crazy how, a lot of like the people that I went to school with are like getting married and having kids and having families. Like, not that I'm not happy for them at all. Like, good on them for finally finding, whether it be their high school sweethearts or people that they're still dated from high school. Like, that's awesome. Like, I honestly, sometimes I wish I had someone that I could have ended up being with from high school, but it didn't work out for me, but it's fine.
I think I remember it was either a video I watched or a saying, and that's like, you're not late to your own movie. It's like your life is your movie, and
Yeah,
like
100%.
where you are in your point of your life is exactly where you're meant to be. Like you're not late to it. So like when I think with what happened with my last relationship and like now, I think I constantly do put myself down a little bit because I'm like, well, I'm 25 and I feel like I should have XYZ done by now, but I'm not anywhere near those points in life that I want to be at, and I get down on myself and I'm like, and then I sit there and I realize I went through a really traumatic experience, and I had to relearn how to be myself without another person, and I had to learn how to actually be myself as well, which was
Again, as
really
well.
strange.
Like,
Like you like you get used to living with that person, or being codependent on a person, or being in a situation, and you don't realize how much you actually change yourself until you're not in that situation anymore, and then you're like, I don't even know. It's like being thrown in the deep end and not knowing how to swim or tread water, and you're like, how do I even like float? I'm kind of like drowning in a sense, but at the same time, you're like, I've got to learn how to swim, otherwise I am going to drown, and you've got to do it so quickly, and people expect you to just be perfectly fine after it and get your life back on track, and it's like that's not necessarily how it's always going to go.
no, absolutely. Like, from being yourself and then being in a toxic relationship where it has been to the point where, uh, you lose yourself, and then you kind of heal from that, and then you try to find yourself again. It takes fucking time. Like, people that have gone through that, it takes time to go through, whether it be a traumatic like relationship or like anything traumatic. I feel like it takes time to heal from that, and you have to put yourself first. And, you know, yes, you can like feel like doubt because like you're not where you want to be in life. Like, I think that, you know, in this present moment, you wouldn't be here speaking with me if you weren't on the right path.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. Like, everything has a reason, and the path that you like. I'm a big believer in that. Like, your entire story is written already, and you're making the choices that are already predetermined. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, you've got all these choices, but like at the same time, like the choices that you make, I feel like they've already the choices that you already knew down the line. Like, your story is written and you're just following the path to get to the point where when the story ends, kind of thing. And that's just a big belief that I've always had, because a lot of people are like, oh, you've got like all these choices. I'm like, realistically, I think no, because I feel like the decisions that I'm going to make are the story that I'm writing, because that's how the story is meant to go. And I just don't know it yet, because I'm 25-year-old me, and then 50-year-old me would be like, oh yeah, this is exactly how my story was going to go. And then like later on, kind of getting to that point where like you're like, oh wow, my story went nowhere near the way that I would have thought it would have gone, and it's not going to go the way. Like, I think about it from time to time as like, I'm 25, and when I was 10, my belief, like, I would not have believed I'd be where I am right now. Like, I would have probably thought I would have gone back to New Zealand. I would have probably not been married. I probably would have had children. This was my full-on belief as a 10-year-old because I didn't feel like I was going to stay in Australia. But, like, now I'm here, I'm 25, and I'm like, the decisions that I've made got me here to this point. Like, this is where I'm meant to be. And I'm not going to be like, oh, I made all these horrible decisions I regret. I regret it. I don't really regret much in my life. I regret one thing, and that was not finishing high school. Like, everything else, I've never regretted, even like being in the really abusive and toxic relationship I was for 5 years. For almost 6 years of my life. I don't regret that because that's part of obviously my story to get to where I am today. Um, do I regret certain things I did in that relationship? Yeah. But at the same time, those were decisions I made to keep myself alive and to make sure that I kept going, which was two different things I had to fight for. Like, but do I sit here and regret most of my life? No. I just regret one thing.
What's that?
Not finishing high school. It's
Yeah.
literally the only thing I regret in my life. It just made my life tenfold more difficult. I didn't realize until I started my diploma. It just was such a nightmare. They weren't going to accept me originally because I hadn't finished school. Because they were like, well, you don't have a certificate 3. And I was like, well, I'm not spending $6,000 on a certificate then to do this diploma, which is another 11,000. I don't need the debt. I'm like, I don't really want the debt. And so I said to them, is there any way that I can get into it without having to do a certificate? They said, try a different TAFE. And I was like, oh, cool. So I rang up my local TAFE and they were like, everyone's got to sit a standard English and maths test because there's rules set by the the industry for midwives and nurses. So they set the rules and everyone has to be a level 3 in English and a level 3 in maths in this test. So it doesn't really matter if you have a certificate 3, if you have a diploma, if you have even like a bachelor's degree. If you don't pass level 3 in English and maths in this test, you won't get submitted into this course anyway. So I was like, well, what's the point? Like, I could have had a certificate 3 in anything and still gone and done this test and failed, and I still wouldn't have got in. So that's the other TAFE was like, I don't get why that TAFE wouldn't take you. Same company, TAFE too, TAFE Queensland. Same entity, just two different like campuses have two different sets of rules. It was really strange.
That seems a bit unrealistic, but okay. I mean, it is what it is. But you completed the course, so like that's really all that matters, you know.
And I did well too. I did really well in my course.
Yeah.
So,
were like the assignments like difficult for you, or how did you find them?
I found them pretty like. I struggled with some of it because some of the wording, it wasn't really well punctuated, some of the assessments. And you can find the assessments online and they're all the same across the board at every TAFE or even program provider across Australia because it's set by the nursing practitioners and stuff like that. It's set by them. They give out the assignments and everyone else just sort of distributes them and then accepts the answers. So some of the questions you would read, you could take it two different ways. It wasn't very clear. So there was times where I would submit an assignment and they'd be like, oh, you're really off, like you're over here where you're meant to be over here. And I'm like, and then they'd explain why. And I'd be like, oh, okay, because this is what I thought the question was asking me. And they're like, yeah, we get that. And then it's like, that's really dumb that you get people like two different sections and people going for the right one and then people going for the completely wrong one just because of the way things are worded. But I did really well in my mental health unit, which was
nice.
kind of interesting because I didn't ever want to go into mental health. I was like, no. I know a lot about mental health because my ex um, was quite frequently in mental health. I've suffered from mental health conditions, so I've been in the public system for mental health as well. So I kind of knew quite a bit about like psychiatric holds and stuff like that. So when I did that assessment, I got it off the bat straight away. Like it was the only assessment that I never had any negative um, feedback. Like all my feedback was absolutely positive on it, and they were like, "You just nailed it." And the funny thing was that was a lot of people tripped up in that assessment. It was the hardest assessment, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, I just couldn't do it." Even some of the people that I'm like, they've aced almost every assignment all the way out, and they just tripped up on that one. I'm like, for me, it was the other way around. I tripped up on a lot of other things, but my mental health, I aced
Mm,
it.
nice. Good work. Good work. Good work. Speaking of mental health, when we were talking about like the last time we spoke, I actually had at the time I didn't know what it was. I had a fair few panic attacks, anxiety attacks, due to stressful situations, and I eventually went to my GP at the time, and they diagnosed me with minor depression and anxiety. So I've had that. Was on medication for like 4 or 5 years. Um, and then basically, even still being on those, a lot of like, I feel like going through like that really shitty, shitty relationships, um, with my ex. Where I think the first 2 years were like, I would say the first year of my relationship was like the honeymoon phase, and then like when it got to like the maybe halfway through the second year, things started to kind of go a bit uneasy, and then towards like the third year, that's when things got heated. Like it was abuse, it was mentally and then physically, where I was hit, pushed up against the wall, locked outside, slapped in the ear, really like multiple times, where I actually ended up having an ear infection, um, like smothered with a pillow. Uh, I was um, really, really like scared, like to be in like my worst nightmare of
Mm.
having to be in a relationship which I thought was happy. I thought that I was happy. I thought that this was normal. I thought this was like, this is what, everyone goes through. And it came true. And honestly, it was the most difficult time that someone could go through when someone mentally, physically, financially abuses you and then takes their anger out on you and physically hurts someone that they say that they love. Um, and honestly, that was the scariest part of being in that relationship. And I knew that I had to end it. And people saw that, like, his family didn't like really like the fact that we were dating, but in the end, close people to him and I, they saw the way that he treated me, even on phone calls, even in person. And like it got to the point where they were like, even friends were seeing like, girl, why are you with him? Why are you letting him treat you this way? And honestly, like when you're in love with someone, you don't know, um you're basically so like love bombed, and like you're so like deeply in love with this person, and you still want to make it work, but you know deep inside your like heart that you need to like walk away. It was definitely hard, but with the support of like obviously people that knew both of us who helped me get out of that relationship, it wasn't the ending I wanted. Because when I sat on it, I was like, okay, is this something I want to do? Is this something I want to continue? So I meditated within myself, obviously, because he got removed from where we were living together. We had roommates at the time, and he ended up moving in with people that close to him and I, and that was the time to kind of like debrief and really sit on it and be like, do I want to keep feeling this way of like I'm not good enough, or like do I deserve to be treated this way? And I know that I like deserved better. And so it got to that point where I accepted the fact that I needed to leave. And I messaged him, and I was like, I need to talk to you in person. He's like, what about? And then got really like smirky with me, and like kind of like, you know, just got really, really, I want to say this, like cunty. And I'm like, I don't want to do it this way. Like, I'd rather like, I'm actually in a sense, I'm kind of glad that we didn't do it in person, because what if he hit me again? Like, what if?
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm thinking about now. Like in this present moment, like what if like he hit me
It
again?
probably would have got
Yeah.
like really, because like you hear about it from time to time, the statistics, like you're more likely to die in the hands of your partner within the day of breaking up, the next 3 months. Like that is the height of the most dangerous period for a person leaving an abusive partner. Like, I mean, I can admit, like, that kind of was what happened with me as well. But like, it's one of those things that I'm kind of glad you didn't meet up with them, because that's, yeah, like it's a trigger, and they can just snap and become so completely different.
Yeah. Especially being like, you know, the narcissist, you know, they think like, oh, why are you leaving? And then they're trying to like love bomb you into like, oh, I'm so sorry, like I shouldn't have done that. And like they try to make you stay, and or they just still be like, but like this guy, he just at the time that we, you know, that I expressed that like I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to break up. This is the end. You know, like it was hard. Like it's like I know I love you, but like I can't give you any more of me of what I've already given you. Like I can't keep giving you 100% of me if you're not going to put in the effort as well. Like that, there was like a unbalance here. So, and like being treated the way that I was treated, like I'm not gonna like yeah, there may have been times where I'm not gonna say it's a one sided. It wasn't one sided. It definitely wasn't. Like there were times where I was abusive. Like I'll admit that. I'll full on like admit that I was abusive as well. I may have been a little bit physical as well, and like I'll take credit and full responsibility for that. Um, but like you know, in the end of like me breaking it off, it definitely like wasn't, you know, I didn't want to be abused over text and be like, you know, oh, you know, you just like, I can't even remember the text, but like I don't really want to remember. But you know, in the end, I'm grateful that like I had the courage, like deep inside, like myself, to let go of someone who I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life. And leaving something so unbalanced and toxic, and someone who wasn't supporting like my dreams or my like whatever I wanted to do. Like I wanted someone who, like even just told me I was beautiful, told me I was pretty. He never did those things. Like
Yeah.
he really just did not treat me the way I should have been treated. Like I gave you everything. Like, my way of like giving to people is like gifting or like actions of like service, and and like even though we spent a lot of time together, but like I just didn't like, I just felt like I was just like there as like time passed. Like, did you really love me? Yeah, you told me, but like, did you really? Like, we were, together for 3 years, like, and then you do this, you treat me this way, like if you really like love someone, you wouldn't treat someone like that. Yeah, people, say that, oh, he's not like that, he wouldn't do that, but like, he did, unfortunately, But I to this day, like forgiven him. We actually saw each other for the like. I mean, prior to that, like obviously we were like de facto, and like we had to like, it was kind of like a, we had to like do like the Centrelink forms and be like, basically we're separating, blah blah blah. It felt like I was divorcing him. It was
It's
like
so interesting, isn't it? How it is here, like 'cause I remember seeing a video, actually, I think it was today or yesterday, about this girl who come from the States, and she's like, so people just don't get really married in Australia. It's like you get in these really long ass relationships, and like even the government like sees you as almost married. And I was like, yeah, there's de facto, like you can get certificates and stuff for de facto relationships. Like you don't have to get married, but you can get your relationship recognized. And then I think like the whole thing through Centrelink as well, like you get recognized as a couple, and you've got to like sign all these forms. You get other people to sign them to say, yeah, we're not together, or we don't live at the address, or if you guys remained living at the address together, that you aren't in a relationship. It's like crazy. Just think about it from time to time. It's like relationships in Australia, just to everyone else, I think around the world, except for probably New Zealand, people really look at us and go, that's just not what we do. Like,
yeah, it's definitely different over here. Yeah. And like once that was done, it was like I felt like in saying like a divorce, it was like I finally, like, once those papers were signed and I sent them off to, obviously to get them sorted, it was just like, it's over, I've done it. Like I left this very toxic relationship. Anyway, that that ended. One door closes, another one opens. I focused on myself. I continued to do what I loved at the time, and we actually saw each other for I guess the first time in a long time. And like, yes, it was like a bit uneasy because like I'm obviously like thinking, how does he feel about me? Like, it's been a long time. Like, what am I gonna expect? But like, it was then couple of days just before New Year's of, I think, last year. Yeah, last year. Yeah, so just December. Yeah, so New Year's, just before New Year's. End up going out to see like the fireworks and stuff with like close friend and the kids, and like they were like really close to me, and obviously I'm still in contact with them because like they were like my like little babies, like especially the girls, because like they were really young when they met me, and they were like my little like nieces, because obviously I was dating their uncle, and I was close with them, and yeah, it was hard not seeing them all the time. And even though like I saw him, and like things seemed like I had to ask like my friend, I'm like, is he gonna like come out and like talk? Because like obviously he was like being a bit of a hermit, like doing his own thing. Like I get it, but like like I don't want any like beef. I don't want any bad blood. Like, can we like just talk like civil people, And like it was kind of nice to like be able to like talk about what we've been up to and how we've like progressed and grown from like a relationship that didn't work. Did he apologize for his mistakes? No, but it's fine. Like it is what it is. But it was nice to kind of like before we started dating, we had a that foundation of like a friendship, and like at that point when we did like reconnect, we kind of like went back in these like times where it was like that friendship thing. I could sense there was kind of like some flirtiness towards the things that he was saying, and I'm just like, you're not dating me anymore. Why are you treating me like this? Like you can't do this shit anymore. I'm not the same person I was back then. Like it was just funny to me. So, but he ended up, shouting a meal, and we kind of ate together, and like that was nice, and just like catching up, and that was nice. Like I definitely like, there was some growth, but like not much of like taking responsibility for like his actions towards me. Vice versa. Like, I mean, I didn't really want to go into it, but it would have been nice to be like, oh yeah, I definitely treated you bad and I'm so sorry for that. Like,
yeah,
but
some accountability would have been nice.
Yeah. But in saying that, I think that it's definitely made me like that relationship has made me better than what I was, like so much better. Like to it's taken me like a long time to heal from that. Like it's been 3 years since like that relationship as well. Like and it's just maybe 2.5, I think, going into 3 years anyway. I'm definitely a different version of myself of when I was of what I was prior to ending that relationship, and it's definitely recognized a lot of things that I've learned for myself, and looking at other people's behaviors, and like I don't want to be like gaslit or ab- abused or like just like don't manipulate me.
You're more
vibes.
aware
I'm
of
more of
like
aware
how
of people's
people
behavior.
and like what they'll say, and sort of like the hooks of people. Like when people say certain things, it depends if it's trying to like lure you in, kind of thing, like hook you in. You're more aware to what people will say to sort of get you to like what's the term? Like kind of like just believe them and wholeheartedly kind of believe them, even and trust them without even
benefit
like
of the doubt.
having that time to develop the trust either. Like some people will just make you like they want you to trust them like then and there, and you're like, no, that's not going to happen. Like I'm not going to trust you immediately. Like I've got to get to know you, like be around you a little bit. Like, and I find that when people try to get me to trust them or be friends with me really quickly, I'm like, no, that's like a danger zone for me. I'm like, that just seems very wide. I get I'm a nice person and stuff like that, and you want to be my friend, but like you don't have to, like we don't have to be best friends like immediately. And so sometimes I think and I see them and I'm just like, you just need to like chill out. Like it's not okay. Like it's a bit too fast. And I find that people use manipulation tactics. A lot of people do, and they don't realize that they're doing it either because they've just done it for so long that they're like, oh, this is just me. And I'm like, no, you've been taught really horrible ways to make friends and or try and date people, and you're trying to manipulate people into being friends with you or date you quicker than a normal progressional relationship would be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like I think that comes from like in a like the way that you have also been brought up can also be the main, like one of the main reasons as to why you manipulate people in that way.
Yeah.
And that's something that you have to heal inside yourself, so then you don't repeat those karmic cycles.
Yeah.
I think everyone does these things, but we have to go inside ourselves to heal those parts of ourselves, and speak to our inner child as well, to know that, hey, this isn't right. We shouldn't be treating people this way.
Like, I know that in my current relationship, I will catch myself doing stuff that I used to do, and I will pull myself up on it. I'll be like, I can't, no, you can't do that. That's not okay. Like, I'll stop myself and be like, no, I wouldn't want that done to me. I can't do that to my husband. Like, that's not okay. And it's even sometimes just thought. Like, it's not even, he'll say something to me and I'll just think something and I'll be like, that's not okay. Like, and even changing the way I think about certain things. It's a slow process, but it's undoing the damage from 5.5 years, almost 6 years of being pretty much put down constantly, being treated less than, being treated like you were completely invisible at times. To now I'm not invisible. My husband talks to me a lot. My husband literally calls me beautiful on a daily basis, treats me absolutely amazing. And I still will sometimes doubt things as well. So it's constantly catching myself up and going, no, he is right. You are a beautiful person. You are beautiful. You are smart. You are intelligent. You are worthy of being here. Like, he is right.
Yeah.
But there's times where I will think such horrible things to say back to that, like real attack. And I'm like, wow, I really need to just stop
It's
and
because you're
think about it.
overthinking it. You're overthinking it, overanalyzing it, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's how you kind of put yourself down, and you're just like. But then you can change those thinking patterns into thinking, okay, they are right. Like, I am worthy of like love. I am worthy of like being.
Yeah.
I am deep inside that I know that I'm beautiful. I know that like I'm worthy of anything. It's the thing with people who are overthinkers. We over like analyze situations, whether it be like conflict or whatever, like anything. Like, we really take a lot of time to process things that people say to us.
And I
um
think that's trauma response, big
yeah,
time.
yeah, definitely a
Because
trauma response. Yeah.
when you think about it, like, I can think of times where when I was younger, I didn't really think about things a lot. I would say things and not even really think of what I'm even saying. I'd just say it. And I sort of had that. And then, like, when I went through that really horrible relationship, I realized that I did become someone that overanalyzed everything, everything, um, down to like even how the relationship ended. I overanalyzed it. Like, I was in therapy afterwards because of how it all ended was very traumatic as well. So, but being told like you overthink and you're critical of critical of yourself when you overthink. So like I'll think about things, but nothing good ever comes from it. It's always very critical, very horrible things that I'll think about. And so when someone says something to me, and it can be like just a line, some things people say can be taken like a million different ways, and especially like over text because you can't hear the emotion to it, so
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
don't know what they're like, how they're actually saying it. Me being the really horrible critical thinker that overthinker that I am, I don't like to text people because of that. So if I've got something really, really important to say, I will ring someone. It doesn't matter when. I'll even save it. I'll even type it in text or in like a note, and I'll leave it, and I'll call them the next day to talk to them, because if it's like too late in the night, I'll be like, it's too late to ask them that now. I'll ask them in the morning, kind of thing,
Yeah.
because I don't want them to interpret what I'm going to say
Mm.
incorrectly and then be like, oh, that's just me really overthinking it. I know most people probably will not have a go at me for something I say, because they will interpret it mostly the way that I'd say it. But just because that one person might, I think everyone will.
And especially like when you're with someone, when you overthink a situation and you're trying to express the way that you're feeling, and they say, "Oh, you're just being dramatic," and they gaslight you into thinking that your feelings are like not valid. And that's something that did happen in my relationship. Uh, in saying that, I know that that's probably the case in yours as well. Is like when you express your feelings, they invalidated your emotions, saying that, oh, you're just being dramatic, or like, like you shouldn't feel that way, yada yada yada, whatever. Like, you people that like understand, not saying understand your thinking pattern, but like there's people that are willing to listen and give you that support response you need. Then there's people who just gaslight the situation, saying like your feelings are not valid. And that's something that I can't stand, people that can't, that really think that, oh, so I'm not allowed to be sad about like this, or I'm not allowed to be angry about like that situation or whatever. It's like, we're all human, we're allowed to feel that, but like, don't say to me that I can't feel this way. Like, I'm like in that prime like moment where I'm expressing the way I'm feeling. This is hurting me. Why can't you like understand what I'm telling you, and uh, somehow support me and fix the situation instead of not fixing it.
Yeah, no, I get exactly what you mean. Like, my husband at the moment, he just went through like an accident at work, and he's fine, but he's got a trauma response to cars at the moment, and he gets like, he like physically gets upset and cries and stuff like that, and gets worried and has panic attacks and stuff, and um like he's just like, oh, I'm so like, he because of previous relationship he's been in, he sits there and he's like, I'm just so worthless, like I can't cry. And I'm just like, you are allowed to feel exactly how you feel right now. I'm never going to be like, you can't feel how you feel. And if you need to cry, cry. If you need to sit there and freak out a little bit, you can do that. I will be right here, and I'll just sit there. I'll do whatever like that he needs to sort of help him through it. But I will never be like, you can't cry. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to do this. I'm just like, whatever you need, do it. I'm your safe space. I'm not going to be like, no, you can't do that. No, this is ridiculous. Even when I had a pretty bad reaction to it the first time, because I have a different mentality to car accidents. I've been in a few myself, but I'm one of those people that, for some reason, it doesn't falter me. Like if I get into a car accident, I shake for a bit. I'm like, whoa, that just happened, but I kind of just get on with it, and that's just, I think that's probably a trauma response from my past relationship. Whenever I was abused or attacked, I just had to get up, get on with it. No one was going to listen to me. I had to just move on. And so for everything that's really traumatic, and you should probably sit down and probably have a good cry about, I'm just one person that's just like, nah, don't phase me, goodbye, I'm just going to keep going. And then like, situation happened at work this year, and I ended up having a panic attack at work leaving, and I never went back because I just couldn't even go back. I was in such an emotional state because I let myself get to the point where I wasn't letting myself cry. I wasn't letting myself
You weren't feeling
emotionally
those
regulate.
emotions. Yeah.
I wasn't. I was just like, nah, not for me. Kind of just storing it in a box and going, yeah, nah, I'll deal with that another, and never dealing with it, never coming back to it and going, oh yeah, I need to sit down and think about how did I feel and why did I feel that way, and how can I, feel try and help myself feel better in that situation next time. I never did the practical thinking of the treatment that I got when I went through my crisis. And I just sort of let it go. And I'm just like, nah, it's all good. It's all good. And I'm like, got to a point where it wasn't all good. And so with what happened with my husband, I was like, in my head, I'm just like, why can't you just be fine? Because I never sat down to go, you are allowed to not be okay after having a car accident. I sort of sat down later that day and I was like, I'm such a vile human being for not thinking that people can have trauma and being emotional from it. Like they're allowed to be emotional. And that's where I catch myself taking horrible toxic traits from my past relationship. They're coming into my new relationship and I'm just like, no, I need to knock it on my head. I got up, I went back to my husband, I said to him, I said, I am so sorry that I didn't, first of all, listen to you. I didn't respect you. And the fact that you were telling me this horrible thing and I'm here sitting here going, you just need to get better. I didn't validate you. I instead I kind of berated you, and that's not okay. That is 100% not okay. And I can see that hurt you so much, and I am truly sorry. And every time that I think that, I will stop before I say it and actually think, no, he's been through something really traumatic and I'm not wired the same way as him. My responses are going to be different, but he is allowed to be emotional because of what's happened. And I think that's a big thing that I've learned this time around compared to last time. I just let everything freaking hit me. Doors, like everything. Like it was just like nothing. I never actually had emotion. I was so deadpan to everything. I'd smile, I wasn't happy. I'd cry, I wasn't actually sad.
You put a barrier up, like you put a wall up, and like you couldn't feel like you're very like heartless to say.
It was like I was a robot.
Yeah.
Just going through the days. Like it was like that. I was in love with this person. And the fact that it almost took me losing my life to actually go, holy shit, I need to get out of this relationship, was when I was like, okay, I cried for 20 minutes. I was almost in an accident on a highway. The person that I was dating at the time was drunk behind the wheel.
Oh, God.
I chose to get in the car, but that was because at that time I was like, what if he dies alone? That's was what my mentality was like. At least he won't die alone. If he dies, he'll die with me. Like that was my mentality that day that I got in that car. And doing 160 in a 100 zone, coming up to the fork where the road actually splits. There was a car on our outer lane, so we were in the middle lane of 3 lanes, and they were on the left lane. And he went in front of them doing 160. The car had almost actually clipped our car. Had he clipped it, it would have spun the car, and we would have hit the midstrip. I would have smashed straight into the midstrip. It would have killed me because of how fast we were going. Like that's exactly what would have happened. And that's when I realized, like, what if I had a kid in this car? And it wasn't even about me. That's not even what triggered me. It was the fact that I thought about if I had a child with this person and right now we'd been in this situation and there was a kid in this car, I would have been dead, and I wasn't even thinking, oh, I'd be dead. that
Mm.
didn't even
You're thinking
didn't
about
even
everybody
come.
else. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I just cried for the remainder of that ride home. And I broke up with him when we got home because I was like, I just literally said
It's like that was the
about
dumbest
5 minutes after,
decision. Like this, I can't continue this relationship.
I literally just said, I can't. I just kept saying, I can't. I said it about 4 or 5 times on the way home. I didn't say anything else, but I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this.
Mm.
And then we got home, we had the discussion, and he was like, the whole breakdown and be like, you can't leave me. Like, I'm nothing without you. Tears, bawling his eyes out, all of that. And I'm just like, I can't do this. I almost died. But I didn't even, it wasn't even that. I was just like, I can't do this. Like, you didn't listen to me again. You sped with me in the car like I told you not to do
And
that.
being
You
intoxicated.
completely ignored what I said to you and you still went and did it again. Like,
Mm.
it was crazy because like that was when I technically broke up with them. We lived together for another 6 months. We weren't like together at the time. I said like you need a ton of help. You need like a lot of mental help. Um, you need to get like diagnosed because he had not got diagnosed. Like he'd been told he had this, he'd been told he had that. He had a really rare condition that actually brought on seizures from having massive amounts of anxiety, which is
Mm.
like really rare, but he'd have actual seizures, but like it's called non-epileptic seizures because they're not actual seizures and because they're not caused by epilepsy, but they look like someone that has epilepsy. And that's brought on by having so much like anxiety in the brain that it brings on a physical form.
Yeah.
And but he never got diagnosed. And I was like, oh, that's like you need to get diagnosed for us and so you can work on something to get better so we can like get back together. That never happened. 6 months later down the line, I started because we had an open relationship the entire time.
Yeah.
I started hanging out with someone. I went and hung out with someone one night, came back. He ended up drinking half a bottle of vodka. I was like, I'm going to be home late. Like, don't wait up. Like, let's go to bed kind of thing. He drank half a bottle of vodka. He lost his absolute mind. Started yelling and screaming at me. I literally had to get up at 6 a.m. the next day. I literally got home at like 11:30. And I was like, or 10:30, something like that. And I'm like, I need to go to bed because I've got to get up at 6 a.m. to go to do my diploma. And he was like, um, you're like called me a fucking slut and all this stuff and just bag me out big time. I'm just like trying to go to sleep. I'm going to bed. He ended up punching a tile wall, cutting his hand open. He was bleeding all the way down his arm. I was like, you need to call an ambulance. Like, I can't help you. That's gonna need stitches. Like, it was deep. And I said, you're going to need to call an ambulance. And he's like, I've already lost you. There's no point. He's bleeding through the entire room. Like, you need help. Like, you need to call an ambulance. I was pretty terrified. So I was in bed terrified because I was like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I'm so scared of what's going to happen. And he threw my phone across the room. He's like, you only care about the phone. I was recording all this because things had gotten so violent progressively the days before. I started recording almost every interaction we had. And then he asked for the keys to the car. I said no. He just kept asking, kept pulling the blanket off me, like getting in my face, getting quite aggressive, trying to hit me, swearing at me. And in the end, I think it was like a whole hour of just taking horrible abuse. I told him where it was. I was like, they're there. Grab them. He went, and he ended up dying. So it was intense. The ending. I think in some ways, like, you know how you were going on about, like, you met up with with your ex and you saw them and they like you never like said that they take ownership of what happened. I was always terrified that he didn't actually die. Until I saw him, I didn't believe he was actually dead. And so I had nightmares of him coming back and actually ending my life. And so I was in crisis care for that, crisis counselling for that. And obviously, the way that he died was very traumatic, or what happened was very traumatic. And then, so after all that had happened, um, I I can say now that I'm kind of, in a sense, when I went through signing everything, because you have to close everything when someone dies, like closing all their accounts and getting the death certificate and all of
Mm.
that, signing all that. The last piece of paperwork I signed was paperwork for their super, because we were technically together. I was entitled to a super. I remember signing that piece of paper and sending it away. And I remember when I got the email that it had been approved, everything was done, and I didn't have to send another piece of paper away. And I sat there for about 15 minutes staring at that screen, and I just couldn't, I didn't know what to do. At that time, I was actually with my husband. Like we were just friends at the time, and I remember ringing him and telling him that like I'd finally like it's all done. And he just said, "How do you feel?" And I'm just like, I don't even know how to feel. And like there's still days where I'm just like, I don't know how to feel. For a really long time, that was the person I saw myself marrying, having kids with. And for a really long time, that was the person. There were still things that would happen, and I'm like, I just really want to call that person,
Mm.
but they're not there.
Yeah.
So I had the whole. I never got to have that um like separation and then go your own way, and then like him doing his own thing, moving on and having a relationship, because obviously how abruptly what happened and stuff. And so sometimes I'm just like, am I better off because of what happened, or am I not better off? And sometimes that really plays around too. Yeah.
Damn, that's really rough. I'm so sorry that you went through that. Like I'm shocked. Like that's like I understand like the whole like of like I there's times like, oh, I wish I could just call that person and be like, oh, I did this, oh, it like that happier things, not so much the
Mm.
abuse. It's just like it's like, oh, I want to tell you that like I'm you know I've done this, and like there's definitely parts of that person that like is like, oh wow, I'm so happy that you did this, like go you, like, but especially when they're passed on, it's just like there's times it's like, oh, I wish I could just tell them and be like,
Yeah,
oh,
like there was one thing I seen or heard or something, and I was like, man, he would have found this really funny. And I actually opened my phone up, and because I have everyone on speed dial, like all my really close contacts, like one, two through to five. I went to hit the two button, and I'm like, that's not going to call them. And that's when I realized, and it was like, I had, there were days where I didn't realize that that person, like I said, I didn't feel like they were actually dead. And so like there's still days I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. Something happens and I'd be like, oh, I should tell this person. I'm like, and I'll get to the point where I go to text them. I'll be like, oh, that's right, they're not here. Like it's real, and it's really bizarre because like I think the worst thing was that I never got to like separate and heal and from what happened, because it went from a horrible relationship into this really traumatic ending. And then like people were trying to get me to heal from this really traumatic ending, which was great. Obviously, it's great to have people go like in your corner and they're like, oh, yeah, what happened to you is so horrible, but like, we're really happy that you're okay and that you're out and you're safe and all this. But you never really get to heal from that. Like, I never felt like I really healed from the relationship. I've spent my own time healing from the relationship because so many people were just trying to get me over the death. And it was like,
Mm.
that must be the pinnacle of the bad. But the thing was, it wasn't for me. I had a really hard time with it because it's like death, the death of it was like, is it this, I'm safe now. I know that person physically cannot come and harm me. Like, there's no way if I walk out anywhere, go anywhere in the world, then I'm never going to walk into them. And
Mm.
that was a big thing before everything happened when we were separating, that kind of thing, was a terrifiable threat to me because I was like, what if I walk into them in the shopping center? And because he was very, very violent and he would pop off and over nothing as well. Like, you could just look at him the wrong way. He would talk to cashiers. A cashier would say something, and then we'd be walking out of the shop, and he'd just pop off. And it wouldn't even be like, it wouldn't have been something I did. It was something someone else did, but he would take it out on me
Mm.
because it was like I was there and
Yeah.
he was angry, and it was always just yelling. And it wasn't even directed at me. It was just the fact that he would just yell at a really high, and people would look, and you'd be like, I'm not here. Like, I don't exist. Like, I don't know this person, kind of thing. But so I had a really hard time with like, am I okay? Like, was it a good thing for me? Was it a bad thing? And sometimes I feel like a really horrible person when I feel like I'm glad that that person is no longer around because I can't be physically hurt by them again. Like, they can't find me, track me down. I feel like that's the person they would have been because of how my relationship was, and that they would keep they had tracking on my phone. They knew where I was. If I didn't call at a certain time, they knew everyone I ever hung out with. I was only allowed to hang out with certain people. If I made new friends, they had to read like my conversations with them. Um, they wouldn't like, and now that I'm even saying this, some of the stuff that I'm saying, I've never said it out loud, and I'm just like, how the fuck did I think this was okay? Like, handing my phone over, or this person being able to go through my phone, or them going out and me not knowing where they were or who the hell they were hanging out with. But when they got home and I asked, oh, where'd you go? Or did you have fun with so and so? And they'll be like, I wasn't with so and so. And I'm like, well, you said you were going to be with so and so. They'd be like, it's none of your business. And you're like, but as soon as it was the other way around, I've gone out. This one time, I went to buy them a Christmas present, and they thought wholeheartedly I was going to see someone. They were like, who are you going to see? Who are you going to meet up with? Like, why can't you tell me where you're going? And I'm like, I'll be back in like 30 minutes. Like, I'm literally going there, going back. I'll be back in 30 minutes. So I was like, where are you going? Who are you going with? Who are you going to see? You're going to go see someone. And it was like I was like, do you not even realize it's like a week to Christmas? Can you not even like, did that not even occur? Oh, this person's probably going to go get me a Christmas present because it's literally like 4 days to Christmas. But no, I couldn't. That was the only time I ever went out by myself in 5.5 years.
Like, I get that. Like, it sounded like that he didn't have trust in you, and like really, like, I had the same thing. Like, he was like, even like, it wasn't so much like guys that I would speak to. Like, I barely spoke to any guys. Like, really, it was like people from high school that like he would just not like and then block them. Like, hello, like, why are you blocking people that I went to high school with? Like, what's your problem? and then I would go out and do groceries, and then it'd be like 30 minutes to like 40 minutes, and they'd be like, when are you coming home? Like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, soon. Like, it's not like I wasn't doing anything shady. Like, and like, it just didn't seem to like have trust in me, and like just was very controlling of like who I'd spoke to, or like where I was going, and like when I would be getting home, like, or just like, I wouldn't say going through my phone, but like really like just, especially talking to certain people, he'll just like be a bit funny with, and it's like, bro, like, can I not have friends? Like, why are you being possessive over me?
I didn't have friends. He made friends with all of my friends. And people that I were friends with in high school, there was one person I wanted to meet up with. She was about to have a baby and she was on like maternity leave. And I hadn't seen her in like 3 years. And I was like, oh, I really, really want to see her. Like, I haven't seen her in so long. Like, she was a really good friend of mine in high school. And I kept messaging her and I was like, oh, planning to go see her. But he's like, you're not going to see her. And then I tried to message this person like a year after, like a year after he died, or a few months after he died, and they just never responded back to me. And I was like, that's like, I lost so many friendships and friends because they wouldn't allow me to see them, allow me to hang out with them, talk to them, whatever like that. Like, I lost my best friend from high school who, like, we were so close and we had a really good relationship, and then he started hanging out and smoking marijuana, and like he started smoking marijuana, and we met people through that, and then he started hanging out with my best friend and her partner at the time, and her brother, and they were all smoking together, and then like, so they had a falling out, and he was like, he was so paranoid as well, and he was already paranoid before he started smoking marijuana, which made it like so much worse because he became so sketched out, paranoid when he did it.
Yeah.
And I keep telling him, you need to stop doing it. Like, you're loony, like super loony on this. Like, you're so far out with the conspiracy theory kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And paranoia that, like, it's not okay, you need to stop it. And he's like, oh, I feel like they're going to come around and like rob us. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, oh, like, I refuse to put my card down. I'm like, what do you mean? And we were on Centrelink at the time. He was the only benefit, because I can't get benefits because of I'm a Kiwi and I wasn't a citizen at the time or anything like that. So he was getting benefits and he was blowing half, like $300 a freaking fortnight on marijuana, and he was only getting like $600. So he was spending half of what he was getting on marijuana at the time. And like, I had to. The funny thing was, I had control of finances, but because he couldn't pay a bill, he didn't know how to. So I had to manage the money, but I wasn't allowed a job, wasn't allowed to work. But in front of other people, he would be like, "Why don't you have a job?" But then, like, as soon as we were behind doors, he'd be like, "You're not getting a fucking job. Don't think about it. You're not fucking working." And I'm like, "The fuck." It was,
what
it was so like, he would always complain that we never had enough money, but then he'd be like, but you're not working because I have to be the breadwinner and all this stuff. And I'm like, clearly you don't. Like, he had such a spotty record of working. Like, he'd get a job, but he would lose that job because he would try and, in his words, like, management didn't know what they were doing. Not management, him. He was just being
he would blame someone else. Yeah.
And he was like, oh, this. But there was this one time a guy did take a fucking chainsaw to his leg tried to actually cut him with a chainsaw. And I was
Jesus.
like, and so he actually went to hospital. So that guy, that time it actually happened, because I didn't believe it. I was like, yeah, okay, this guy's really giving you all this trouble. And then he ended up going to hospital because of it. And I was like, okay, now I believe you, because he'd said it so many times before. Like, every job that he got let go from was because someone didn't like him and was bullying him, or that kind of thing. But he would always be like, you're not working because I have to be the breadwinner. I'm like, well, this clearly isn't working because you're not working enough. Like, he'd be on Centrelink for at least 4-5 months of the year because he just didn't have a job to cover at the time. Like, he was with like every job agency known to freaking Australia. He was with them all because Centrelink makes you freaking go to one. He got passed round from all of them because we moved a lot. And then, it was just, but I had control of the finances because he's like, I don't know how to pay a phone bill. I don't know how to pay this. And I was just like, it's not hard. Like, you just do this. And he just was like, you do it. And like, he would make out that I was like financially abusing him. I'm like, he'd make it out like I had control of the money. And that was a big thing. It was like, when he couldn't get marijuana, he'd be like, oh, my girlfriend won't let me get it. He'd say my name, but he'd be like, my girlfriend won't let me get it. Like, I have to ask her. So because he didn't want to take the blame for not having the money. He didn't want to be the one, going, oh no, I've got to make sensible decisions. I was the one that had to make them for him. But he would yell at me for making them. It's so delusional, eh?
That is delusional. Like, that's so funny because literally the same thing, like with the whole weed thing. And then at one point he was just so like having withdrawals and like getting so funny. And I'm like, it was literally a life or death like situation. It was just like, do I want to get like abused even more? Or like, so I ended up cashing in my like Mac laptop, right, and got money for that. And then all because he wanted weed for his birthday and he was having withdrawals. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll just do it. I ended up getting the laptop back eventually. I paid it off. Thank fuck for that, because honestly, like,
there's a steep hill though when you cash things and like that, eh?
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of money you got to pay back to get it out. Because I didn't understand that. Like, I have a friend now, and like she's in that situation where she does it quite a bit, and I was like, how does that actually work? Because like, I had a friend that was doing it, but I she's like, I'm just gonna go cash it in cashies, and I'm like, what do you mean cash it in? What is this concept? And my friend that I am friends with at the moment, she's like, oh, this is how it goes. And I was like, she like cashed in her Switch for like $300, and then she ended up paying like $400 or $500.
It's like interest on top it, yeah.
Because it's like 16% interest or something. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wow,
it's pretty
I can
fucked.
see how. But the biggest thing is, I'm like, I can see how poor people, like really poor people in Australia, can never get out of this endless cycle of debt when you've got to go to cashies to do this shit.
Yeah.
And you're getting slapped with 16%. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Like, it's so much money to try and get your stuff back.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like,
but yeah, you like end up footing the bill for everything that they want to do, or yeah. So he ended up making me block my best friend and her brother and her partner at the time off everything. I used to play Apex with them.
Oh, yep.
So I used to game with them. I lost the people I gamed with because he was like, they gotta come rob our house. I'm like, no, they're not. He's like, they know where we live. And I'm like,
they know where we live.
And I said to him, how do they fucking know where we live? Like, I never told them where we live. So how do they know where we live? And he goes, I told them. I'm like, why? Because I got them to drop me off. And I'm like, when? When did you get them to drop you off to the house? He goes, 2 weeks ago, and I'm like,
you're only just telling me this now?
you're really like shit had already started to happen with this, like the brother. It was the brother that was the issue. It wasn't really like my friend and her partner. It was the brother, but he was like paranoid that the brother would use my friend and her partner to get through to me and all this kind of, oh my God, it was so bad. It was just so delusional. I'm just like, okay, I will block them. If that, like, he was just like almost on the midst of actually having a panic attack and crying and screaming all in one go. Like, it was just, I'd never seen someone go from being like, you need to block your friends to, we need to block them because they're going to rob us. And I'm like, what the I was just sitting on my bed, looking at my screen, logging out of Apex because he's just come through the door, slammed the door shut and gone, you need to block them off everything. And I'm like, whoa, okay, why? And then he just had a meltdown. It just went so crazy. I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'll just block them. And because I blocked them, and then like that was 2 years before the relationship ended, might have even been more than that. I never talked to her for 4 years, so I lost my friendship. And like she was one of my best friends. Like if anything had happened, I would have gone to her. But because like I lived with him and he was having a meltdown, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. Should have probably kicked him out then and there, let's be honest. Never will make that same mistake again. I'm not freaking picking someone over someone that's been in my life a whole lot longer than they have ever again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's crazy to me. Damn. Yo, it's been an hour and 16 minutes. But honestly, like it's been so fun talking to you about like everything that we've like experienced so far in life that we are still healing from in this present moment. If you're interested in like doing another episode with me and we can talk more about like
totally
any other experiences and things that you want to share, like as the podcast is I'm Not My Story, so I want to let other people be on the platform and share their life experiences, and to know that people are not alone and they can get out of toxic relationships and heal from them, and just make this a movement for people to know that this is a safe place to share their experiences or are going through that and need help. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. But thank you so much for joining me. Like it's been such a pleasure reconnecting after 5 years. It's definitely been a long time coming, but hey, things happen for a reason, as we said. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And I hope that your story inspires others, and I hope that if anyone has any questions, this will be a video on my YouTube channel. So if you want to comment any questions, either to me or Kay, please feel free. And we can you can also put questions and responses on the Spotify podcast as well. I've only just realized that too. So whether it be on the video or the podcast itself on Spotify, feel free to ask us anything or to reach out on our platforms. If you want to plug your socials on, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I don't actually have like open socials. Like I've changed my freaking username on all of them. They're all different ones. So I'll probably just comment them onto the video when you publish it up.
All
I'll
right,
just add them in
sweet,
a comment
sweet. I
so
can,
people can
yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. All right, sweet. I can pin that comment on there. But yeah, thanks guys for listening. If anyone wants to join on the podcast, please reach out onto me on Instagram at Renee RENELEA. And if you're on the YouTube channel, please, reach out. All my socials are linked in the bio. Description thingamajiggy. I haven't said that in years, man. But
I know it feels weird, eh?
I know, because I used to do YouTube and it's just like, oh, sometimes I forget what things are called now. It's just like, oh.
I haven't done social media in so long. I'm like, what? But thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you. I haven't talked to you in so long.
I know.
We need to catch up, like in
Yes,
person.
coffee. We need coffee. We need,
like
yes.
for sure.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Or even alcohol. I'm not sure if you do alcohol, but
look,
I'll do alcohol.
I don't drink that much anymore, but I'm down for like a social drink with someone that I trust. So yeah,
I don't mind having like a drink. Like I'll have a drink, but I won't probably drink more than that because I'm just like, I'm not a big drinker.
yeah, 100%, 100%. Definitely, we'll definitely catch up. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, okay. Thank you guys for listening. Yeah, I hope to hear some questions coming in, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you. Bye.